Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Oregon State went 2-5 last year, but 3 of those losses were by 1 possession. The Beavers have not made a bowl game in 8 years. And while this team is very, very solid, a difficult schedule may prevent them from making the postseason for the 9th straight year. So again, guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here to break down and predict Oregon State's schedule and record for this 2021 college football season. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in that description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best spread picks in the entire nation. Make sure to sign up today before the season begins, because I promise you, you're not going to want to miss out on what we have to offer. So again, guys, let's take a look at Oregon State today. Jonathan Smith seemed to have slightly turned a corner last year. Yes, 2-5 is nothing to brag about, but one of those wins was against Oregon, and 3 of those losses were by 1 possession, guys. The competitiveness is there for the Beavers. But when you look at the schedule for Oregon State, drawing USC, Utah, and Arizona State, arguably the 3 best teams out of the South, with a road game against Purdue, obviously a road game at Oregon, a road game at Colorado and Cal. All of those things combined there makes it a very difficult schedule where this could be a team that is much better than their final record indicates. We take a look at this team. 8 starters back on offense, but they lose their workhorse. Jermar Jefferson had 858 rushing yards last year. The Beavers as a whole averaged 197.6 rushing yards per game, and I don't think they're going to replicate those numbers. B.J. Baylor comes in and replaces Jermar Jefferson, but he is no Jermar Jefferson. You could see the Beavers lean a little more heavily on their passing attack, but the question is, who's going to be quarterback? Tristan Gebbia missed the end of the season with that torn hamstring, had to get surgery on the hamstring, had 824 yards and 3 touchdowns last year, but he's going to be battling Chance Nolan, who had 537 yards and 6 touchdowns in replacement for him. And he's also going to be battling Sam Neuer, the transfer quarterback in from Colorado. 3 very capable quarterbacks for Oregon State. It's good to have depth, but you got to settle on the right one to start. 4 of the top 5 pass catchers do return for Oregon State, though, so whoever's under center will not be short of any options. The offense is looking fine. It's the defense that needs the most help. 7 starters are back on that side of the ball from a unit that allowed 33.3 points per game and 217.6 rushing yards per game. When you look at the roster, the front 7 seems to be very strong. Isaac Hodgins back up front, leading that defensive line. Omar Speight, Avery Roberts return as the top 2 tacklers at linebacker. The talent is there defensively. Can the numbers improve defensively? That is the million-dollar question, and that could end up being the difference maker in whether or not Oregon State takes another step forward, maybe flirting with bowl eligibility, or whether they have a disappointing year in 2021. So we take a look at their schedule, guys. Again, we mentioned how brutal it is. Obviously, they're in the North, so they have to play the top 2 teams there in Oregon and Washington, mixing California as a dark horse. They draw the top 3 contenders out of the South in USC, Arizona State, and Utah. And they open the season at Purdue, and then right after that have a non-conference game against Hawaii as well. Not an easy out. But the first game is at Purdue. We're going to break that one down first, in West Lafayette. First off, that's not an easy place to play. Jeff Brom has tried to do everything in his power to make that a difficult place to play for any team that faces his Boilermakers. And I will say that I like Purdue's passing attack already better than Oregon State. Whether they go with Jack Plummer or Aiden O'Connell, yes, Purdue has a quarterback battle going on just like Oregon State does. Whoever they decide on has plenty of game experience. They split time last year. And they have David Bell, a true number 1 wide receiver for Purdue. And that's one thing that Oregon State doesn't necessarily have going for them. The same thing with Oregon State. Purdue's defense sputtered at time. They have a couple of big-time starters. George Karlaftis, one of the best defensive linemen in the country. But I do think with home field advantage and a better offense, Purdue is going to get this win. I do believe Purdue gets this win. They tend to start strong under Jeff Brom, maybe fizzle out later on, but they're going to get a quality non-conference win over the Beavers. Oregon State returns home to take on Hawaii. And we mentioned it a second ago. That's a tough out. That is not a surefire victory for Oregon State. Because as many have said and pointed out, Hawaii's offense can hang with maybe anybody, especially in the Mountain West, and a good amount of people outside of that as well. Chevin Cordiero is back at quarterback. 10 returning starters on defense for the Rainbow Warriors. But this team allowed 211.7 rushing yards per game. I believe you could see a guy like B.J. Baylor have a breakout game against Hawaii. In a game that I do think is relatively close. Relatively close because Todd Graham is going to do a great job. He did a great job there last year. We'll do another great job this year with Hawaii. I do believe Oregon State gets this win. But it will be close. They beat the Rainbow Warriors. And we believe they beat Idaho right after that. Shouldn't have to worry too much about the Vandals in the FCS. So 2-1. 2-1. Then they get into conference play. And that's where it's going to make or break Oregon State's season, guys. Is can they win a few games in conference play to flirt with bowl eligibility? With as difficult of a schedule as it is. Well, they kick things off at USC. That's not ideal. Go ahead and chalk it up as a loss. The Beavers are not going to go into LA and beat the Trojans. When you look at Oregon State, their secondary is relatively young. With the exception of Jaden Grant, obviously the leader of that secondary, they're pretty young. And they're going up against an air raid offense. A team that just wants to pass the ball all the time with Graham Harrell as their offensive coordinator and Keaton Slovis back at quarterback as one of the best in the Pac-12 and one of the best in the entire country. If you want to say and make a comment about USC's defense, keep in mind that Todd Orlando is back as defensive coordinator for another year. 6 starters back on the defensive side of the ball from a unit that ranked top 4 in the Pac-12 in every defensive category. They could be even better in 2021. USC is a South favorite for a reason. They're going to beat Oregon State at home. They're now 0-1 in conference. They then take on Washington at home. They only lost to the Huskies by 6 last year, 27-21. The problem is Washington returns just about everybody from that 2020 season. If you remember, the Huskies should have won the Pac-12 North. They went 3-1, should have been playing for a Pac-12 title, but could not due to COVID. Jimmy Lake now enters year 2 with just about everybody back on both sides of the ball. A team that gave up just 185 passing yards per game. That was first in the Pac-12, 13th in the nation. And a team that gave up just 346.2 total yards per game, 27th in the nation. This Washington defense is on a completely different level. They're going to have what it takes to stop Oregon State's offense. And I don't know if Oregon State's defense has what it takes to shut down Washington's offense. Yes, they may sputter at times. Yes, they need to find a quarterback, whether they stick with Dylan Morris or go with the 5-star and Sam Heward. But Jimmy Lake's going to have his offense rolling, I believe, by October 2nd, 4 games into the year. The Beavers drop their game to the Huskies. They then travel to Washington State. Back-to-back weeks they play the Washington teams. Last year in the season opener, the Cougars beat Oregon State by 10. Beat them 38-28 in Corvallis. Let's keep that in mind. Beat them at Oregon State. Logically, I look at this and say Washington State's an improving team. 15 returning starters, now in year 2 under Nick Rolovich. More time to implement his run-and-shoot offensive system. Jaden DeLora, a young quarterback, another year under his belt to learn the offense. Top 2 pass catches are back. Max Borghi back at running back. The defense should improve despite having a horrendous secondary. Washington State won by 10 last year on the road, and now Oregon State has to travel to Pullman? I don't see the Beavers pulling off an upset now. Again, if they lost by 10 at home last year, I don't think they can go on the road now and beat Washington State, a team that should improve in 2021. We haven't dropped the game to the Cougars. So they were 2-1, now they're 2-4 going into their bye week. They get Utah at home on October 23rd. That was one of those top 3 teams out of the South that we mentioned. When you look at the Utes, guys, they won their final 3 or 4 games to conclude 2020. In Oregon State, again, it was one of those one-possession losses for them, only fell to the Utes by 6, 30-24. But when you look at what Kyle Whittingham is doing in Salt Lake City, he has a team that returns 18 starters. He utilized the transfer portal beautifully, not only landing some big-time running back transfers, but landing Charlie Brewer, the transfer quarterback from Baylor, to come in and bring stability at the position. Utah really hit their stride towards the end of 2020. They're now carrying momentum into 2021. 18 starters back, 10 on offense, 8 on defense, and that's the number you got to look out for, is how strong this defense once again will be in Salt Lake City. when you look at Oregon State and you say, hey, all they can really do right now is pass, I think Utah's going to be able to shut that down. And now the Utes actually have the offensive capability to put up the numbers to beat any team in the Pac-12. And they will beat Oregon State. The Beavers then travel to California. They beat Cal 31-27, a one-possession victory for the Beavers. But they now have to travel to Berkeley to face off against Chase Garbers, who, when he is healthy, is a phenomenal quarterback, consistent quarterback for the Golden Bears. California returns 8 starters on offense, and that's kind of been the thing that's held Justin Wilcox back. That's been the thing that's held California back. Well, now the offense should be able to take off, and we know the defense is always going to be strong under Wilcox. 4 starters back, strong secondary. You get where I'm going with this. We got Oregon State dropping another game on the road to Cal. It's just too good of a team that could be a dark horse in the Pac-12 North this year. They then travel to Colorado. The key for Oregon State in this game is stopping the run, and we just mentioned how poorly they were doing that in 2020, allowing 217.6 rushing yards per game. Colorado wants to run the football. Washington wants to run the football. Oregon is going to run the football. So a lot of the Arizona State will as well. So many teams that Oregon State is going to face want to run the ball, and that was one of their worst stats last year, was stopping the run. And when you look at Colorado, they've got they have a new quarterback in Brendan Lewis because Sam Neuer transferred out. They have Jarrett Broussard back at running back, Alex Fontenot back at running back. Nate Landman leads a solid linebacking core for the Buffaloes. I'm not expecting another great year from Carl Durrell. Remember, Colorado went 4-2 last year, nearly won the South. Not expecting anything like that. But at home in Boulder, with a potent rushing game, I do think they take down the Beavers. And just like that, Oregon State is still winless in conference play. They've now dropped 6 games in a row. I know that's what no one wants to hear. I know everybody thinks that sounds impossible. But again, look at how difficult the schedule is. Look at how difficult the schedule is and tell me where you can find a victory for the Beavers in this stretch. They return home to take on Stanford, a team they only lost to by 3 last year. Another one-possession loss. Fell to the Cardinal 27-24. Well, they only fell by 3 last year. The Stanford team that could possibly be better in 2020 than they are going to be in 2021. I think Oregon State can win this game. I think they can. And we're going to say they will. We're going to give the Beavers a win here with, bowl eligibility out of the question at this point in time. They're still going to be looking to play spoiler. They're still going to be looking to rack up wins when they can. And I do believe they get a win over the Cardinal. I do believe that. I do believe that their secondary, Oregon State's, can stop anything that Jack West literally throws out them. Because I don't feel very confident in Stanford's passing attack. I feel very confident in Stanford's defense, though. So this game could be low scoring. 27-24 last year. Could be a similar score this year. But I like Oregon State to get the job done. They got so many of these one-possession losses they suffered last year. They're going to get revenge in one of them. I like this one against Stanford, also because they have home field advantage. They get the win over Stanford. They're not going winless in conference play. They return home, or stay home, I should say, to face off against 2 of the top teams in the conference. They start with Arizona State first. They fell to the Sun Devils by 13 last year, 46-33, and it could be another similar score. But maybe more points for the Sun Devils, maybe a little less for the Beavers. Because Arizona State, again, as of this filming, we have not heard any punishments for them regarding the recruiting violations. Predictions could change for that if they come out between now and the beginning of the season. Not really looking very good for Herm Edwards and the Sun Devils. But assuming nothing happens, this is one of the better teams in the conference. Jaden Daniels, an offense that averaged over 260 rushing yards per game. So much returning talent on defense, some of the number 1 scoring defense in the conference. Even though the game is at home for the Beavers, Arizona State simply has too much, and they'll drop this game. Lost by 13 last year. I'd expect another double-digit loss this year, probably about 2 possessions. And they close out the year at Oregon. Last year, Jonathan Smith got the big quality win everybody was hoping he'd get, everybody was looking for, and it was the win over their in-state rival in the Ducks. They defeated them 41-38. Well, if you don't think that Mario Cristobal and the Ducks are mad about that, if you don't think that they want revenge over the Beavers after what happened last year, you're absolutely wrong. The game is in Eugene. Senior night for the Ducks. RPO offense for Oregon with Anthony Brown and Travis Dye and CJ Verdell and their top 2 pass catchers, and a defense that is going to be one of the best, if not the best, in the conference. loaded on the defensive line, the linebacking core, and the secondary. Oregon, to me, is in a league of their own. The North favorite, the Pac-12 favorite, really, until proven otherwise. They get revenge over the Beavers, and Oregon State goes 3-9. Now, I know you Oregon State fans out there are going to hate this. I know that. And I know you're going to strongly disagree with it. I understand that. As we said at the beginning of this video, Oregon State has the talent this year. There's a lot of talent on this team. I think this is going to be one of those cases where the record does not show how good this team really was. This team's going to be better than their final record indicates. And if you're looking for extra wins, maybe the Beavers get a win at Purdue. Maybe they get a win at Washington State. Maybe you think they're good enough to pull off an upset against Colorado or Utah. Maybe. I think 5-7 is the best case scenario for Jonathan Smith and Oregon State. But I do not see this team going bowling in 2021. So our prediction will hold true. We might not get every game right, but they will remain at home in the postseason for the 9th straight year. I know 3-9 comes off as harsh, but it's an absolutely brutal schedule for a team that seemed to be trending in the right direction. Oregon State staying at home and hopefully can turn things around in 2022. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in that description below, including those expert picks on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Don't miss out on those. Sign up today before the season begins. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.